Hello everybody, this is Jansaurus here. We focus on budget Magic the Gathering, and today I am bringing you a budget commander deck of Wulfgar of Icewind Dale. So Wulfgar is a human barbarian for 3 red green with melee, and if a creature you control attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So since Wulfgar has melee, which means that for every opponent you are attacking, you get a +1/+1 till end of turn. That gets double the trigger. So potentially we could make Wulfgar into a 10/10 if we attack each opponent on the same turn. So Wulfgar can pack an amazing punch. I think he's a very unique commander based on pretty much a pan-harmonicon on a attack trigger. It's just a very unique commander effect, to be honest with you. He does get bullied a little bit. You might want to watch out for that. Maybe put a little bit more protection in this deck, but I am very confident in that this is a very fun and a very budget-friendly deck. So first off, we're going to start off with some ramp. I like to put most of my ramp as creatures in this deck because that gave me the ability to trigger melee more and just get more attack triggers in general. So first off, we have Beanstalk Giant for Fertile Footsteps for 2 and a green. Search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And then Beanstalk Giant's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Burnished Heart, pay 3, sacrifice Burnished Heart, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle. Farhaven Elf, when Farhaven Elf enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle your library. And Fertilid enters with 2 +1/+1 counters, and you can pay 1 and a green to remove a +1/+1 counter from Fertilid. Target player searches their library for a basic land card, puts it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffles their library. You could possibly use this for an opponent, like as a little political tool. If someone's just really struggling, you can just be a bro and just, help them into the game. But more than likely, this is just for you. Grand Warlord Rata. So, Elf Warrior has haste. Whenever one or more creature you control attacks, add that much mana in any combination of red or green until the end of turn if you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So with Wulfgar, this triggers twice, literally gets you double the amount of mana that it should, and just a very great way to scale out through the game. Hoarding Ogre, whenever Hoarding Ogre attacks, roll a d20, 1 through 9, create a treasure token, 10 through 19, create 2 treasure tokens, and 20 creates 3 treasure tokens. So you get 2 rolls of the die, so it's not, it doesn't mean that you get double the amount of creature tokens. You do have to roll 2 d20s. Some rule sticklers could get on with you on that, or if people want to just hurry up the game, you could possibly convince your playgroup to just roll 1 d20. It's really up to you guys. Migratory Greathorn with a mutate. Whenever this creature mutates, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. And then we have Rada Hair to Keld. Whenever Rada attacks, you may add red, and they can also tap for green. So this is a mana dork, but if you have Wulfgar out, it could get you 4 red mana, which could be huge in playing off some of the bigger creatures that we have in this deck. Savage Ventmaw. It's a flying dragon 4/4. Whenever Savage Ventmaw attacks, add red, green until end of turn, and you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. With Wulfgar, you are literally getting 12 mana, so it's just a huge swing for you in ramp-wise. Dire Strain Rampage. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If a land was destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for up to 2 basic lands, put them onto the battlefield tap. Otherwise, its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle. So you can destroy one of your basic lands and ramp yourself. You can. It's a very quite the utility piece, honestly. It is removal. It is ramp. It just, for what you want to have done at the current time, it just gives you so many options. So that is, I like those kind of cards just because it gives you more to play with, more or less. Explorer's Scope. It is a 1 mana artifact. Whenever equipped creature attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it is a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped and equip one. With Wulfgar, you could be possibly getting 2 land cards off the top of your deck, prevent you from flooding, or at least you know exactly what is going to be happening next turn based on your draw. So it is a very unique style of ramp in this deck, but it goes so well with Wulfgar and in the theme, I just had to include it. And then we have Evolution Charm. Again, another utility piece, just has a lot of different options. Choose one, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, or target creature gains flying until end of turn. The flying can close out a game depending on what you're going against. We can get another key ramp creature or a key attack trigger creature off of the second one, and then the first one just gives you a little bit of, I guess not necessarily ramp, but guarantees your next land drop. So I love the charms. I love the ones that just let you have so many different options. Bomat Courier. Has haste. Whenever Bomat Courier attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. You can pay red, discard your hand, sacrifice Bomat Courier, put all cards exiled with Bomat Courier into their owner's hands. So, if you do have Bomat Courier on the field, just remember, always keep an open red mana. Please do not forget that. You can be screwing yourself very, very quickly by just exiling some of your best cards. But with Wulfgar, it does get you 2 face-down cards, so it can pretty much double the amount of cards that you are getting to your hand. Conspiracy Theorist. Whenever Conspiracy Theorist attacks, you may pay 1 and discard a card. If you do, you can draw a card. And whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile one of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. It just gives you a little bit more fuel to keep on going. Howling Golem. Whenever Howling Golem attacks, each player draws a card. This can give you a little bit more. I know it helps everyone, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. You are going to be attacking a lot, so people might not like you, to say that the least. But having a Howling Golem and them knowing that they're going to be drawing 2 cards off of it can relieve some of the pressure off of you. Keeper of Fables. Whenever 1 or more non-human creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This does not actually trigger off of Wulfgar. It just goes really well with the kind of deck that we're building. Kind of a really aggressive aggro deck. Really helps to have Keeper of Fables as kind of a top-end card draw. Harmonize, draw 3 cards, Mouth to Feed, create a 3/3 green hippo token, and then draw a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. We do have quite a bit of powerful creatures in this deck, so we can actually draw a decent amount of cards off of Feed. Shamanic Revelation, draw a card for each creature you control, and then you gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Again, just gives you a ton of card draw, and it also can help you sustain in the game from all the crackbacks that you're going to be getting. Colossal Majesty, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Our commander is 4 power, so it just kind of goes great with this. Just an additional little card draw to just keep us getting gas. Overwhelming Instinct. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, draw a card. Our main goal is to at least attack 3 players to get Wulfgar up to 10 power. So with that alone, we should be getting a card draw off of this. And Lifecrafter's Bestiary, a majority of our cards are actually creatures, so this is just a natural include. Anger. As long as Anger is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. Just a haste enabler. All these are haste enablers. And honestly, just getting in there a turn earlier can make a huge difference with some of our creatures, especially with our commander on the field. So Crashing Drawbridge has Defender, but you can tap it, and creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Samut, Tyrant Smasher, creatures you control have haste, and you can always minus it for target creature gets +1 or +2/+1 and gains haste until end of turn. Scry 1. Hammer of Perforos, creatures you control have haste, 2 and a red, sacrifice a land, put a 3/3 colorless golem enchantment artifact creature token on the battlefield. More than likely we won't be using that last little bit, but if you are in a pinch and there was a board wipe and you have plenty of lands that you feel like you can just throw away, be my guest. Go for it. Next, we're going on to our anthems. Kenra Charioteer has trample. Other creatures you have trample. This can be huge because that way we're not, getting blocked by a little dinky 1/1 token. Gruul Warchant. Attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and have menace. Fires of Yavi. I always struggle with this one, I'm sorry. Fires of Yavima. Creatures you control have haste, and then you can sacrifice it. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Ogre Battle Driver. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. So all these just make your attacks so much stronger. All of these just make combat so much easier for you to overwhelm your opponent. It just makes really it just makes your attacks just so much more potent. It's just that. ATTACK-HARMONICONs. We have Aetherwind Basker for 4 green. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but it is a 7/7 lizard. Whenever Aetherwind Basker enters the battlefield or attacks, you get an energy for each creature you control. Pay 1 ether. Aetherwind Basker gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So at minimum, when this attacks, you are getting, if you have your commander, you are getting 4 energy, which you can just pump immediately into this because I believe this is our only energy outlet. So this can easily become an 11/11 and just be a real pain in the butt for an opponent. Blossoming Bog Beast. Whenever Blossoming Bog Beast attacks, you gain 2 life. Then creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain. So how this works is, number 1, you attack with this and you have Wulfgar out. You get 2 life, then every one of your creatures gains trample and gets +2/+2. and then it triggers again, gaining you an additional 2 life, and then every single one of your creatures gets a bonus +4/+4. So this is a +6/+6 and trample outlet, all for free if you have your commander out. So, Bolt Hound has haste, and whenever Bolt Hound attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So, at minimum, it's a +2. That's all it is. It's just a very cheap pump effect, more or less. Cultivator of Blades with Fabricate 2. When Cultivator of Blades attacks, you may have other attacking creatures get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Cultivator of Blades power. So, at worst, it is a +2/+2. At best, you can actually make it +6/+6 if you do put the plus or 2+1/+1 counters on Cultivator instead of making the tokens. Delina Wildmage. Whenever Delina Wildmage attacks, choose target creature you control, then roll a d20. Create a tapped attack, or for 1 through 14, create a tapped attacking token that's a copy of the creature, except it's not legendary, and it has exile this creature at the end of combat. And then 15 through 20, you create one of those tokens and you re-roll again. So you can get an absurd amount of advantage off of Delina. The only problem is that the token comes in attacking, so you don't then get an additional attack trigger off of Wulfgar. But at that point, that's just nitpicking. Honestly, if you get an Atali Primal Storm additional token off of that, that is just really just an amazing card value. People will definitely want to kill this right away. Atali Primal Storm. Whenever Atali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those without paying their mana cost. Getting possibly 6 free spells is just game breaking. You can win the game literally off of this and a Wulfgar out on the field, just depending on what you get. Fangreen Firstborn. Whenever Fangreen Firstborn attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature. I don't really need to say it, just pump your entire board just twice. Whenever Flame Rush Rider attacks, put a token on the battlefield tapped and attacking that's a copy of another target attacking creature. Exile the token at the end of the turn, and it also has dash for a slightly cheaper payment. Honestly, just getting 2 extra attacking tokens, it's the same with Delina. The only bad thing is that the tokens then don't trigger off of Wulfgar, but at that point, that's just really being nitpicky. Goblin Trap Runner. Whenever Goblin Trap Runner attacks, flip 3 coins. For each coin flip you win, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. Again, you have to flip 6 coins. For pace sake, you can ask your playgroup if you can just double your 3 flips, your original 3 flips, just to speed up the game, but that's up to your playgroup. Again, just makes your board wider with all our anthems and pump effects. That can actually make a difference. Kessig Cagebreakers. Whenever Kessig Cagebreaker attacks, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token that's tapped and attacking for each creature in your graveyard. This can just absolutely go nuts with how many creature tokens you're going to get off of, depending if like how late in the game you are and if you have Wulfgar out. It can just be absolutely game breaking just off of that. Cogled, the Titan Ape. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, but when it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. And then you can also pay 1 and a green, return target human you control to its owner's hand. Cogled gains indestructible until end of turn. So Kogla is a very, very great card in this deck. So not only does it fight something to remove a problem utility creature that your opponents have, it also, whenever it attacks, it destroys artifact or enchantments. And then on top of that, you can pay 1 and a green to remove your Wulfgar and put it into your hand to gain Kogla Indestructible to prevent him from being killed with a spell. It is honestly a truly amazing card in this deck. It does so much for us. I would highly recommend keeping this card in there. Krinko 10th Street Kingpin. Whenever Krinko 10th Street Kingpin attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Krinko's power. So the first time you attack when you have Wulfgar, you get 2 1/1 goblins, and then it triggers again, and then it gives you a total of 5, or wait, no. Yes, it gives you a total of 2 +1/+1 counters on Krinko, and then it gives you 5 1/1 tokens. So again, just makes him bigger and gives you more of a board state to attack in next time. Predator Ooze. This is a little bit tricky with our mana base, but it is well worth it to have in this deck. It first of all has Indestructible. Whenever Predator Ooze attacks, put a +1/+1 counter, and when a creature dealt damage by Predator Ooze this turn dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Predator Ooze. So obviously you swing this in every single time, and it just slowly gets bigger. But with Wulfgar out, it can possibly just slowly just steamroll people. It's as simple as that. And then even chump blocking it eventually doesn't work, because then it gets even bigger and bigger, and then we just need 1 Anthem Trample effect and it's game over. Rampaging Brontodon. If you play this, it will probably die, but if there is not a removal spell and you have haste, this instantly takes out an opponent. It is insane. Whenever Rampaging Brontodon attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each land you control. We're a Gruul deck. That's all I have to say. We had a good amount of creature ramp in this deck, so we can actually just turn out lands. Not as much as Simic, but we are Gruul. It's not quite as good as the landfall, but it is there. So Rampaging Brontodon, like I said, can easily just destroy a single opponent when we get it out. Rubble Belt Raiders. When Rubble Belt Raiders attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each attacking creature you control. It just grows insanely fast, especially with how wide, hopefully, our board is. Siege Dragon. When Siege Dragon enters the battlefield, destroy all walls your opponents control, and then whenever Siege Dragon attacks, if defending player controls no walls, it deals 2 damage to each creature without flying that player controls. So number 1, this can absolutely hose certain decks. If you're playing against an Arcades Sabbath or a Dorian Siege Tower, this absolutely just hoses that deck. It just... it's almost unfair to play it against that style of deck. But even if they don't play walls, just dealing 4 damage to each creature that doesn't have flying that player controls can be a one-sided board wipe very, very easily. Sir Farron, the Hinge Hammer. When Sir Farron, the Hinge Hammer, attacks another target creature, gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Sir Farron's power. With how many anthems, this can get up pretty high, but it is just a very cheap pump effect, more or less. Tuya Bearclaw. Whenever Tuya Bearclaw attacks, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. With, like I said, how many big creatures we have, this can be very a very interesting threat anyways. War Chief Giant. Haste, and it has Myriad. Whenever this creature attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may put a token that's a copy of this creature on the battlefield, tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker he or she controls. Exile the tokens at the end of combat. So I love the Myriad keyword in this deck. It is absolutely amazing. You attack one person with a 5/3 haste, and then your opponents, if you have Wulfgar out, have to deal with 2 of them each. It is tremendously awesome. I love it. It can really surprise a lot of people. Moonsilver Spear. Equipped creature has first strike, and whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 4/4 White Angel creature token with flying on the battlefield. This is very expensive, but just to get it off one time with Wulfgar on the field can just change the game. It gives you huge flyers to defend with from crackbacks, and it can potentially just end the game by giving you flyers to go over someone else who has a creature-based strategy. Okay, Godo War Bandit. When Godo War Bandit enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. When Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it, and all samurai you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So, Godo is a very interesting one. It does give us additional attack triggers, hence the word attack. So Godo can get us our Moonsilver Spear, which was in right there, and it can put it onto the battlefield for us, so at least it saves us 4 mana. And then whenever it attacks for the first time each turn, it triggers twice if you have Wulfgar out, and then you untap it and all samurai you control, and then you get an additional attack phase. The only problem with that is then when he attacks again, it doesn't trigger again, and then him and all other samurai are also don't untap at the end of it. So there is kind of a weird little setting, so you might waste your second free attack, but it is a very cheap and easy way to get an additional attack trigger is what I'm trying to say. You do have to be careful because, like, again, after you attack with Godo, the second time it doesn't untap all your stuff before causing another one. So you kind of not necessarily waste that third one, but just be careful of that. Hellkite Charger. Flying haste. Whenever Hellkite Charger attacks, you may pay a total of 7 mana. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Honestly, you probably never want to actually pay the 14 mana. It's just a slightly different than Godo, to where you can pay it multiple times if you do, say, have a Savage Ventmaw and a Wulfgar out. You can instantly just pay Hellkite Charger's trigger fee, just like that. And just, you can have continual attacks with just those 2 cards. Or 3 cards, I guess, necessarily. Lightning Runner. 3 red. Double strike haste, and whenever Lightning Runner attacks, you may get 2 energy. Then you may pay a total of 8 energy, I believe. Yeah, 8 energy. And untap all your creatures, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So I guess I was wrong with Aetherwind Basker. There is another energy card. And obviously, if you have both of these out and a Wulfgar, you can pay for almost as much additional combat phases as you really want, which can also lead you to win the game, obviously, and never-ending combo off of that as well, as long as you can keep Lightning Runner alive, that is. So obviously, if you have a Lightning Runner, don't blow all your energy on Aetherwind Basker. I would put it more towards this. Now we're going to go with our utility. First coming up, we have Snakeskin Veil. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. Oh, so most of our protection is definitely going to be for Wulfgar. Sadly, he does have a huge target on his back for being a very powerful commander when you build around him. The downside of that is that, like I said, he has a huge target on his back, and people love to kill him. Wrap and Vigor, regenerate each creature you control. Abrade, deals 3 damage to target creature or destroys target artifact. Inscription of Abundance, choose one. If it was kicked, choose any number instead. So its kicker cost is 2 and a green. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player gains X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures they control. And target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Has a little bit of removal, can make a certain person bigger, like a Krinko, if you really need to. Could potentially make your Lightning Runner bigger to survive an attack phase. And then it gains you life. It's just an all-around nice utility card. Ram through, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage dealt to that creature. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. We do have a few big trample creatures, so that might come into play. Return to nature, choose one, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. Always love to sneak a little bit of graveyard hate into these decks just in case. Reanimation is a very, very popular commander strategy, but so is artifacts and enchantments, and I've been burned by Paradox Engine way too many times to not have artifact hate in my decks. Mass Mutiny. 3 red, for each opponent gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. So get 3 creatures, their 3 best creatures attack, hopefully get some attack triggers. This is just a very great alpha strike card. Mob Rule, 4 red, choose one, gain control of all creatures with power 4 or greater until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn, or gain control of all creatures with power 3 or less until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. So I love this card. It gives you a little bit of duality. Are you playing against a big Simic player who's just trying to run you over? Or are you playing against another girl creature or opponent who has big creatures? Or are you playing against a green-white token strategy where it's just a ton of 1/1s? Both of these options has their own benefit, obviously. So I just love like I said, the extra utility and stealing a person's best creatures and throwing them at them, or going even wider, like possibly doubling your board state and attacking into the person that you just stole all their tokens into, can instantly take one of those 2 people out of the game. All right, so we're going into the value. So TCG player cost is $26 without shipping. Card Kingdom cost is $41 without shipping. So either way you look at it, this is a very budget-friendly deck. It does surprisingly great things with how little we actually had to spend with this. Wulfgar, like I said, is a very, very unique commander. I personally love playing with him. He does have quite a target on your back, so if you do want to increase the budget, possibly trying to give him indestructible or something like that could definitely help him out. So Obviously, the average cost based on Card Kingdom for a commander deck for Wulfgar of Icewind Dale is $464. So even if we do use Card Kingdom's cost as an average, we are less than 10% of the average cost for this deck, and I still feel like we are pretty competitive with this. Like I said, the deck is not perfect, but for literally under $50, you can give a lot of people run for their money. So lore-wise, he is the king of the elk tribe of barbarians, and before we really get into this, I cannot do Wulfgar justice on this. He has so much lore that I cannot really get into, and honestly, it sounds a little bit depressing. He's had a lot of stuff happen to him in his life, so if you do like this commander, I do encourage you to actually look into his lore. It is very interesting. So like I said, he is the king of the elk tribe of barbarians. He was captured and actually enslaved by Iritu. This is actually not a picture of Iritu. It is just the demon creature that Iritu is. And I can't remember exactly how long he was enslaved by Iritu, but it was years. He eventually lost his wife due to a sentient sword, which is, again, another super depressing thing. And then one final note, he was actually reincarnated as Hrolf, hundreds of years later. So, like I said, Wulfgar has a very, I don't want to say depressing story, but like, he goes through his trials, is what I would like to say. And I feel like he does, I feel like you can connect with him more because he goes through those more depressing moments. Like, he literally almost lost his mind when he was enslaved. Like, just not only because he was enslaved, but because, you know, torture and all that. So I very much encourage you, if you do like this commander and you want to know more, please feel free to read the resources for him. He is a very interesting character, in my opinion, and I encourage you to look that up. All right, so here we are, guys. I am very happy with this deck. Like I said, he is a very, very fun commander. Obviously, if you want to improve this deck, feel free. Wulfgar just does so much and is such a unique twist on the, I don't want to say pan-harmonicon design, but he's the only one who can do this. He is a unique commander, and he is probably one of my favorite Gruul commanders, honestly. I absolutely love this card. Thank you so much for all of your support. Link is down in the description if you want the deck tech. It can give you a link to both TCG Player and Card Kingdom. If you want to buy the deck tech, if you want to improve the deck tech, I understand. Any comments down below I would appreciate. And like, comment, and subscribe if you do like this content. And thank you guys so much.